Have you ever seen those heartbreaking images from the Mediterranean Sea? Rickety boats, dangerously overcrowded, filled with people hoping for a new life in Europe. For many, the first stop is Italy. Due to its geography, stretching deep into the Mediterranean, Italy has become the front line of Europe's migration crisis. But what happens after these boats land? What is the reality on the ground? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the complex and often tragic situation unfolding on Italy's shores. This isn't just a news headline. It's a story about people, policy, and a nation caught in the middle of a global challenge. Let's start with the numbers. For years, Italy has been one of the primary entry points for migrants and refugees, especially those crossing from North Africa. People fleeing war, persecution, and extreme poverty board unseaworthy vessels, embarking on a perilous journey. In 2023, the numbers spiked dramatically, with over 157,000 people arriving by sea. To put that in perspective, that's a nearly 50% increase from the year before. The tiny island of Lampedusa, closer to Africa than mainland Italy, often bears the brunt. Imagine a small community suddenly having to host thousands of new arrivals in a single week. It's a logistical and humanitarian nightmare. The strain on resources is immense. Reception centers, designed for a fraction of the numbers they receive, become dangerously overcrowded. We're talking about people sleeping on cots in hallways or even outdoors, with limited access to food, water, and medical care. The system is simply overwhelmed. Local authorities and aid workers do what they can, but they are stretched to their absolute limit. This isn't just a temporary issue. It creates a bottleneck that affects the entire process. People can wait for months, sometimes years, in these subpar conditions just to have their asylum claims heard. This long wait in legal limbo makes migrants incredibly vulnerable. Without legal status or the right to work, many fall through the cracks. They become a ghost population, ripe for exploitation. We see this particularly in the agricultural sector, where some are forced into grueling work for shockingly low wages, a system sometimes controlled by organized crime. Others end up in makeshift camps on the outskirts of cities, facing precarious living conditions and a constant risk of eviction. They came seeking safety and opportunity, but many find themselves trapped in a cycle of poverty and uncertainty. Faced with this mounting pressure, the Italian government, under Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, has taken a much harder stance. The new strategy is clear: deterrence. The goal is to stop the boats from ever leaving Africa. This has led to a series of bilateral deals with countries like Tunisia and Libya. The idea is to provide these nations with financial aid and equipment in exchange for them cracking down on human smuggling networks and preventing departures from their coasts. This approach has seen some success. In the first half of 2024, sea arrivals dropped significantly, by over 60% compared to the same period in 2023. But this policy shift has brought a storm of controversy. Human rights organizations are sounding the alarm. They argue that these deals effectively trap vulnerable people in countries where their rights are not guaranteed. There are widespread reports of abuse, detention, and forced returns in both Libya and Tunisia. Critics say Italy and the EU are essentially paying other countries to do their dirty work, outsourcing their human rights obligations and violating the principle of non-refoulement, which is a cornerstone of international law forbidding the return of asylum seekers to a country where they are likely to face persecution. Perhaps the most controversial of these policies is the Italy-Albania deal. This agreement, a first of its kind for an EU nation, involves building reception and detention centers in Albania to process the asylum claims of some migrants rescued at sea by Italian authorities. The plan is to send single men who are not from countries with which Italy has repatriation agreements. They will be held in these offshore centers while their cases are reviewed. The Italian government argues this will relieve pressure on its own facilities and act as a powerful deterrent. If you know you won't end up in Italy, but in a detention center in Albania, maybe you won't make the journey. However, the legal and ethical questions are massive. Critics, including the Council of Europe and numerous NGOs, argue the plan is fraught with problems. How can Italy ensure access to legal counsel and fair asylum procedures in another country? What about the mental and physical health of those held in detention for extended periods? There are serious concerns that this sets a dangerous precedent, creating a two-tiered system for asylum seekers and further eroding human rights protections in Europe. The Italian courts have given it a green light for now, but the legal battles are far from over, and the first centers in Albania are still under construction. While the focus is often on the sea, it's not the only route. The Balkan route, a land-based path into Europe, has also seen an increase in traffic. Migrants cross through countries like Slovenia into northeastern Italy, presenting a different set of challenges for border management and reception. The story of migration is not one-dimensional. It flows through multiple channels. The crisis also fuels significant social and political tension within Italy. In some cities and towns, the presence of a large number of migrants without work or housing has led to public safety concerns. There are reports of increased crime, such as drug dealing, as desperate individuals are targeted by criminal networks. This, in turn, fuels anti-immigrant sentiment and provides ammunition for far-right politicians. It creates a vicious cycle where genuine security concerns are mixed with fear and prejudice, making rational, humane policy-making even more difficult. Small business owners in some areas complain of a decline in public order, while residents feel their communities are changing in ways they can't control. At the same time, it's important to recognize the human element behind the politics. We are talking about individuals who have risked everything. Many are fleeing unimaginable horrors, civil war in Syria or Sudan, brutal dictatorships in Eritrea, or complete economic collapse. Italy itself has acknowledged the growing role of climate change, with Prime Minister Meloni even mentioning climate-induced displacement as a driver of migration. There is a fundamental tension at the heart of Italy's response: the acknowledgement of this genuine human suffering on one hand and the hard-nosed, security-first approach on the other. So, where does this leave us? Italy is at a crossroads. Its tough new policies appear to be reducing the number of sea arrivals, which the government counts as a major success. But the human cost of these policies is high, and the legal and ethical fallout is still unfolding. The deals with North African countries are fragile, dependent on the political stability of those nations. And the Albania plan is an untested high-risk experiment. Ultimately, this isn't just Italy's problem. It's a European problem and a global one. As long as war, poverty, and instability persist in many parts of the world, people will continue to move in search of safety and a better life. A strategy based purely on building walls and closing borders, whether on land or at sea, is unlikely to be a sustainable long-term solution. It may shift the problem, but it doesn't solve it. The challenge is to find a balance between secure borders and humanitarian compassion, between national interests and international obligations. For the thousands of people stuck in limbo in Italy, and for the thousands more who will attempt the journey in the future, finding that balance is a matter of life and death. Thank you for watching. This is a complex topic with no easy answers, and it's important we continue to discuss it with nuance and empathy. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the issues shaping our world. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.